I can't, I don't want to go home to deal with them.
Let Chrissy babysit it. It's fine.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a 4.5 hour drive, right?
In the desert.
Yeah, through the Mojave Desert.
Let me tell you, he is a little irritated. You know?
I had a wedding on my military base, and my sister-in-law wore a gray sweatsuit and brought no ID. I had to go up to the booth and identify her I was getting my makeup done. This is how many different ways can I say you have to bring this?
Many.
You're gearing up for this year? Any meetings?
Yes. You want emails for our calendar? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I did calendars for the websites today too, and I'm like, this year's almost over.
Right?
It hasn't started and it feels almost over.
I swear, and I haven't actually looked into this, but I felt like there was actual less days of summer, or at least less weekends in summer this year. I don't know if that's actually factual or not, but it felt that way.
Kids get older, they get busier.
Well, and I like having the kids at home, so I don't know. I like going to school too, but I really like, especially you guys know, having kids at different schools, different ages, but then when they're all under one roof for a long period of time, they get bored together. That's when they really connect again a little bit,
Make memories, make things, make games.
But I kind of feel like this summer was extremely short, and I don't know why that is, but it does feel like we have actual physical less days.
Although considering I don't really remember much from April to August last year,
Yeah.
I have a complete memory lapse from April last year.
Still the same 8 weeks.
They're like, we did that last summer, and I'm like, okay.
Well, I always have I now have a new thing. It's is it BC or not? Is it before COVID or not? I feel like my BC memory is seems like a lifetime ago.
Well, mine, I just didn't have enough oxygen to remember anything.
Yeah. Because everything changed after where my husband works, everything is completely different.
I feel like I missed the entire 2-3 years of COVID. We didn't go anywhere this summer, which was weird.
No. Went to Havasu and we had a whole week at Disney.
Oh, nice.
That was fun.
Well, we're leaving on a Disney cruise September 7th. So, we'll be gone through the 20th. So we just didn't go anywhere. We didn't go camping. We didn't. I don't like going everywhere where everybody else is going.
Yeah.
But we are going to spend our spring break. My kids don't know. I think that's Christmas. We went to Hawaii this year. Trying to make up for last time. Still never did New Zealand back though. And that trip still 3 times as much as when I had a boat.
I got
5:43. Open the meeting. In accordance with board policy, this announcement is advised that all attendees at tonight's board meeting is being recorded. Persons wishing to address the board on any agenda or non-agendized item must fill out a speaker card. I do have speaker cards on the items. We will now have the pledge of allegiance. Please stand. Joe, please lead us.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the born and unborn of works.
Or we have an agenda to adopt. We have a motion to adopt. Motion by Joe. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Anthony. Please vote.
Do we need to, does adoption move anything prior?
Adopt the agenda before we do the action. Agenda is adopted 4-0. We now have a report out of closed session. We do have a report this evening. At this evening's closed session, the governing board took action for the appointment of the following assistant principals. The motion was made by Joe, the second was made by Karen. The vote was 4-0 for Deborah Morris, Pedro Fuentes, and Chris Bogman, or Bowman, pardon. Bogman, to be appointed. Congratulations, guys.
Did we clap or?
Or we have a consent agenda this evening under 7A. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt?
Motion by Karen, second by Joe. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to give Cajon kudos again for meeting after meeting, doing great minutes. And then on the gifts and donations, we have anonymous from Anza Elementary School, and Jim Miller donated $7,000 worth of assorted camera equipment, 53 binoculars, 2 telescopes to be used by Crest Elementary students for outdoor enrichment, which Crest is a outdoor sort of immersion school. So thanks, Jim.
It's a family collective donation. You can only put one name on the agenda item. So
Thanks, Miller and family.
there we go. All right, with the kudos, which I appreciate for everybody, do we have a motion? Oh, there's a motion. That's correct. Right. Please vote.
There's a speaker card Cajon said.
Do we have a speaker's card on the consent? Oh, we do, as a matter of fact. Thank you for that. Would Tom, because we don't usually have one on the speaker card, Tom Boraro, please. Boraro.
I have a few
It's
just for
phonetic.
travel and,
This is regarding our consent items.
And traveling conferences.
Traveling conferences.
Yes.
7F.
thank you. So Tom Morello, retired naval officer, retired 16 and a half year program manager for the government. I'm sorry, I need to wait for
The clock will come up. Once you see it going, you have your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Tom Morello, retired naval officer, retired government program manager, 16 and a half years, commander Naval Air Force's U.S. Pacific Fleet. I was a steward of taxpayer dollars and the decision authority for travel. I did bring up travel last meeting. I'm disappointed to see the same shortfalls in Cajon Valley Unified School District. It's a little embarrassing to say that the district is far behind the Department of Defense in the way it is financially accountable for its travel. There's no breakout of costs, and we do that routinely in the Department of Defense. It was an automatic no if there's no breakout of costs. So there's 2 travels on there for a superintendent in October to go to the Innovators Educators Network in October. However, I went to that website and there is no announcement of the 2023 conference posted on the website. There probably will be a 2023 conference, but that is not public information at this time. I only say that because they have 2022 and 2021 information on that. There's also staff October travel to go to Tempe, Arizona. Large number of people. And I would say there's no harm in waiting for the next board meeting to get updated information. The reason is so that the board members don't have to play detective in figuring out if this is good travel or bad travel. I've been in your position and had to approve travel, and I know how uncomfortable it is to approve travel if it turns out to be a bad idea or embarrassing. And so that you don't have to play detective, you get to see the breakout of the costs, and then you get to easily ask questions with a glance. So, for example, how many of you knew that the 3 IT people who went to Las Vegas in April or May paid $2,095 each for their conference fee for an Oracle business conference, not even an education conference? Doesn't sound like education to me. Now, I would be a little uncomfortable if I had proved that. But if you had the breakout, you wouldn't have to play detective. You wouldn't have a citizen here pointing it out to you. You would just get to look and say, hey, how come there's $2,000 extra other than hotel and mileage and rental car? That's all you would have to do. Your lives would be easier. The staff knows how to do it. This staff wants to be a world leader in digital information presentation, and they can start with presenting the information for travel. Thank you.
As this matter is agendized, does the board have any comment?
Yes, and I just had to restart because I kept getting a sad file logo on my computer when I tried to open this. Okay, so now I have travel and conference pulled up. How many people are going to Arizona? 16 people to Arizona, 21,469 educator effectiveness. Do we know what the registration fee is for that?
I don't believe there's a registration fee. We're part of an innovation alliance. We're accepted by Arizona State University. It includes business in the Tempe School District nearby where the conference is being held. It's being held on Arizona State's campus. We're touring their machine learning and artificial intelligence facility, which was on display at the ACGSB conference last year. And Karen put it out to current administrators, APs and principals. Karen?
Yes, and it was APs and principals, and there is no fee or registration.
ASU's your alma mater, right?
UCLA.
UCLA. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
He can be upset that there's no more Pac-12, so.
So I'm guessing you guys are flying there, hotels. Maybe it's a sticker shock for the cost of travel these days. Over $1,000 a person to go to Arizona.
For 3 days?
For 3 days. And how many days is the conference?
I think it's 3 days,
Okay.
including school visits.
It's actually 3 days.
And the objective is looks like mostly principals will get to see some.
There's presentations from partner districts. I think there's a collection of about 20 that are currently in. So we'll be presenting some of our world of work, and we'll hear from other districts that are innovating. The alliance itself is reputable, and we've seen over and over again at the ACGSB conference the types of innovations. Since we've done one-to-one back in 2014, from a hardware technological standpoint, we really haven't explored or experimented with some of the new technologies available. And this is an opportunity to see hands-on in real time in classrooms in Tempe, but also network with some of the most innovative districts in our country.
You said world of work, so now my next question is, could Beable help us pay for this since they're the 97.1% beneficiary of whatever world of work we might sell outside of this district?
I could ask. It's not part of our agreement, but I could ask. That's not the intent of our going. We were just asked if we were to be on a panel, what we present and where we present that.
Okay, I'm gonna motion, oh, there's my microphone, it was, well, I didn't hear myself before. I'd like to motion to table this until we can request from Beable whether they could, help fund that travel for us. Since one of the stated goals is to, present on World of Work.
That's not, the stated goal is for professional learning for our principals.
Yeah, I know what it says there. I just heard the superintendent say that we were presenting on World of Work, so that's why I cued in on that.
The World of Work, this is very, you became very sensitive all of a sudden. The World of Work, Anthony, as you should know, is almost every time we present something, the World of Work is incorporated based upon being such a core element to our particular curriculum here in Cajon Valley. So I can sit on the safety and security about what we're doing and still end up saying something about World of Work. That's not the primary issue. But the professional learning is, which is what it's apparently about for administrators. We have 16 administrators at $21,400. If you look at the visibility of that over 3 days, that's not an excessive number by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes you have to go and travel in order to find these things, and not always here in San Diego. Just my comments. So do you still have, do you have a motion pending, or do you want to rethink it?
No, yeah, I'll leave the motion pending.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table at the point in time that we table the travel and conference for the Arizona trip, pending information back from Beable to contribute or not to contribute towards the actual costs. Is there a second to that motion? And did I phrase your motion correctly?
Yes.
So there's 16 people attending the conference, is that correct? So in dividing 21,500 more or less by 16, that equates to about 1,300 per person
For 4 days.
for 4 days. That's what we're looking
So there's a motion. Do we hear a second? If no second, then the motion dies.
at. So I would suggest that based on public comment that we have records available if need be.
That doesn't sound like a second. So without a second, the motion dies.
Okay, and then on the next one for discussion, the program budget, superintendent discretionary, how much is that budget per year? Do we know?
Was it 100,000?
For the second travel item?
Oh,
For the PIE.
It's
Yeah.
100,000 a year,
100,000 a year?
and then we've added last year and this year and next year an extra 100,000 out of one-time money,
So next year would be 200,000?
as well as this year.
Okay, 200,000 this year. And this year, our fiscal year is like June to June, is that right?
July 1st to June 30th.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
The Pi network I shared with you by email, you may not have seen it yet if you haven't checked your email in a couple of days. This one, I was invited to speak by Arizona State University and the Center of Reimagined Public Education. They are also the funders of the Walton Family Grant, and several organizations will be here at this summit to engage in conversations about economic development in the workforce. It's a conservative leading group. One of the primary funders is Jeb Bush's group, Excel and Ed, and I think that this would be a great opportunity for the board to join me to meet some of the people that are making decisions in policy across our country around workforce and economic development.
Now, given the opportunity, as I mentioned, David, I intend to attend. I have to move a couple of court members around.
And they are paying the cost of my travel.
Oh, right on.
Excellent.
And I have to say that Excel and Ed is a very good organization, also founded and led by Jeff Bush, which he oftentimes is the keynote speaker to these events. And his focus is basically to help children, students in education as far as their literacy goes. So it's a really good focus, especially where we are today with our district, with our strong focus and push for literacy. It not only helps us to understand, I think it's beneficial for a board member to go. A board member will go and help to understand the direction of where literacy is on a different level. A lot of times people have their reservations about board members going. But keep in mind, you know, we are the ones who are setting policy to help understand the direction of where we need to be as far as literacy goes. So I highly recommend if anyone can go to that.
Thank you, Joe. With those comments, we have a motion on the table and a second for the consent agenda. Please vote.
Is it too late to ask the travel and conference get pulled from this consent agenda, so I don't have to vote on the whole thing?
The answer is unfortunately yes, because we've already had a motion and a second, and we have the discussion without the motion to pull.
I figured, okay.
Sorry, I would have done it too.
Yeah, I didn't realize, too late, okay.
But there's still direction to staff to request the information to be able and see if they'll contribute. That is still to be, please, follow through.
I didn't get any pop-up.
Matter passes 4-0. Coming down to the action items. Action item A, it's recommended that the governing board approve independent study courses for Boston Global Charter, 2023 to 24 school year. Do we have a motion on this matter?
Motion.
Motion by Karen, do we have a second?
This is for the World of Work, 8A.
The independent study for Boston, it's 8A.
Got it.
And somebody remind me, we will have a speaker on 8D, so I don't want to skip over that. We do not have a second.
Second.
Second by Joe. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Matter passes 4-0. Moving down to 8B. It's recommended that the governing board approve high school coursework for Bostonian Global Charter. We have a motion on this matter. Motion by Joe. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Karen. Discussion.
Well, Jim, you and I have been having a discussion on this one.
Absolutely.
I know you had some, a good direction on it, so, for discussion, can I ask you to elaborate what the direction is on that, or would you like me to, move for that?
No, my suggestion, and we can collaborate on our discussion overall, my discussion is that in reviewing the various curriculums, civics, history, ELA, there are certain components of each that we'd like to see either revised or reviewed. And Karen Minshew's worked very diligently, very quickly to do the vast majority of that legwork. So it is my suggestion that based upon the overall curriculum that we ask staff to continue, because that'd be Karen's staff, to continue to work on the issues presented. That includes certain external links for curriculum, as well as certain, how do we want to phrase this, the description of the coursework, which I think has generally been resolved for the most part on the description of the coursework. Not necessarily content, but the description of the coursework itself, because we have to make sure that these pass the A through G requirements for the Cal States and the UC systems. So by doing that, we can have a discussion with staff. So we would be approving, in my thought process, we would be approving those courses separate and apart from those that we now identify. So Anthony, you want to identify which ones you have concern with?
The English, it's attachment number, it says 11 ELA Bostonia Global updated 8823 was the, let me just make sure, because there's a 12 ELA too, let me just double check this.
Right, junior year versus senior year.
And you have the updated and the replaced.
Yes.
ELA, all that.
Yes, so 11 ELA Bostonia Global updated 8823 or I would like to pull that. Not sure how to go about.
ELA 11 will be pulled
Okay.
for further staff development and brought back at either a special meeting or we'll bring it back, depending upon how fast we have to get it done, or we'll bring it back for the next meeting.
Thank
Is
you.
there a timeline?
We'd like to get them.
Yeah, sooner rather than later.
First day of school?
Depends on when you teach it too.
Right.
Al's over there shaking his head.
And then, we got civics cleaned up, correct, Anthony?
I believe so. I didn't, it was a late over here at a curriculum adoption, but I only had a limited time between this morning and today to review the new stuff, so I hope so.
Right, so
And I know,
the links that we identified previously, I believe have been pulled, is that correct, Aaron?
Say that again.
The links that we had previously identified that we had a concern with on the civics program?
The entire description's been pulled.
Okay,
The previous, I didn't get today's communication, but I will get that, all the previous thing. The entire description, including any content, has been pulled, prior to 8/8.
okay, and that also,
Topics.
and that also includes my concern with regard to the history curriculum? Wonderful. So with those caveats put in place, we have a motion, we have a second, I will call for the vote at that point.
With that modification that we pull the order, we're good on that?
Correct, ELA being pulled.
Okay.
There we go. All right, with that caveat, Karen, did you follow all those things? Please vote. Matter passes 4-0 with modifications. Moving to 8C, and again, somebody catch me at 8D because we have public comment. 8C, it's recommended that the governing board approve employing the teachers listed below on the basis of a provisional internship permit. Do we have a motion? Motion by Jim, second.
Second.
Second by Karen. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, please vote. Matter passes 4-0. Moving now to 8D, we do have public comment. So how we do public comment when there's more than one person is we have one person take the seat and then the next couple follow behind them to stand behind. So, Mr. Valero, please come up and take the first seat, the Valero that is. Then we have Mary Davis, followed by Tom Valero. No, those are all. Because they won't talk separate, but it's still the one item. So Lee will go first. Ms. Laura, at your convenience, when the clock starts, it's.
My name is Lee Barama. It's Italian, so I can pronounce it. And, I'm a concerned citizen, I guess, here in the area. I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids, and my husband's right behind me. My concern is what's going on with the money. When I see scores dropping and I see all this money going out, it just doesn't make sense to me. The biggest thing that I'm not excited about when I look at this list is about the event that's going on Thursday. That's supposed to be basically a breakfast and sounds like a carnival kind of atmosphere, circus lunch that's going on. I don't know all the totals of what it's costing, but it's $159,000 for breakfast and the carnival, $107,000 to rent at State, $11,000 for a sand art show, pyrotechnics $13,000, $70,000 tech support, and $1,300 for professional photos. And I guess that's better than last year's. It was $750,000 extravaganza that went on in town and country. That doesn't make sense to me when this is supposed to be about El Cajon and live, work, play, and raise a family here. When you guys have had your back to school events at Shadow Mountain, and I know the district caters them, and so it just seems extravagant when I hear about all the needs that are going on here in this district. One of them is I hear a lot about the people that don't have fluency in the language, that you've got 35 different languages spoken, 30 at one school, and I don't understand why there's not an English immersion program here at Cajon Valley, or one that maybe that's working a little bit better. I know that when I lived in Germany, I had to learn German. You have to learn to think it, and you need to be immersed in it. And I think that that's important to do that here to get everybody on the same page. I think basic things are more important than AI and all these travel and more coaching. I didn't even go through all the consulting things that seem like too much to me, but it seems like basic stuff makes more sense. For the teachers, support for them, and not just a bunch of consulting stuff. I mean, I was looking at things that are site funds for Bostonia, for district money of $92,000 for WOW and Beable. When it doesn't look like WOW is really all that WOW, that it was better 10 years ago. And if we could be back at that level of competency in English and math and those things, I think that would make more sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Davis.
Hi, Mary Davis here. So I'm here to express concern both about the spending on some of the items that you've listed, as well as the overall process that you use. I'm gravely concerned about the lack of transparency and full disclosure regarding consulting. I'm also concerned about what I perceive as razor-thin timing in getting these things approved. I mean, here you're ratifying it tonight and some conferences being held Thursday, and I might think, okay, well, I guess that happened, but then I look at last year, I went to the minutes from last year, and I see that again, the same thing in August, they approved it just under the wire. So one of my asks tonight is that you implement a 30-day pre-approval process. If you're gonna do anything and have an employee, because surely when you booked these rooms or venues, you must have had somebody sign a contract. And so at that point, then you need to, if it's like a 30 or 60 day, you need to be putting a process like that, and that we're not waiting to the last minute, because again, there's no chance for transparency or eyes on. The other thing I'm very concerned about, as I've been reviewing your documents, most of them have an attachment where we can look at what kind of disclosures or the details of it, but it's always, everyone I went to for consultants, there was never anybody, no details. You would write a synopsis of what it was, but you didn't say what that item is or have a breakdown, just as in the travel, you give a synopsis and no breakdown. I should not have to put in a public records to see how the taxpayer money is being spent. So I'm asking you to itemize that information, please. Also with consultant, is this working? Okay. For consultant agreements, that's a very loosey-goosey manipulation, and I'll bring this up to you for Sandag. I have an example here when I did a public records request for them. They held a retreat. It was a 2-day retreat at Viejas for all their board members. They got hotels and everything. It was almost $27,000 for the retreat, but they paid a consultant $42,000. So how is a consultant for them more? And that just shows you the level of room for abuse and manipulation. And so I'm asking you to provide that information for these consultants. Lastly, I'm also concerned on item 15, you have, and again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not making any accusation, I'm just concerned for transparency's sake. It almost looks to me like there's some kind of commingling. If you have a separate cabinet and a separate foundation for WOW, why is all of that money not kept separate? Why is it says combined support administrators and in addition will be implemented with WOW? It seems like those eggs should be in separate baskets. So lastly, I'm also asking for accountability and to be held to possibly the federal acquisition reporting standards so we have a higher level of transparency and we can see where the money. Thank you so
for your
much.
Tom? Same as last time, once it starts, you're on.
I get 3 minutes for all of it.
You do.
Okay, hello again. I'm concerned, like Mary, I thought she was spot on. I'm concerned about the habitual business practices that are being done here. I was a staff officer on a large staff for 2 decades. I know how hard good staff work is, so I'm not saying the staff isn't able to do it. I'm saying that you all have not become accustomed to proper justification and rationale. You basically have a description of a contract, a one-line description, and the cost, and that's all you have. You don't have an attachment, you don't have a statement of work, you don't have a performance work statement, you have nothing. And you have 27 of them here, and we get 3 minutes to pull them apart, maybe. So I ask that item number 9 be voted on separately. As a committee member, I'm asking that number 12 and 14 be pulled and voted on separately. I'm asking that number 23 and 25 be voted on separately, and number 27 be voted on separately, and I'll tell you why. So number 9 is Aztec Shops providing the breakfast, lunch, and catering. I guess it's not, there's no good places in El Cajon to eat, so we have somewhere outside of El Cajon, even though we live, work, and play here. So there's 1,256 classified employees at the last available commission report at a cost of $159,000. That is a cost, if every employee goes, which I doubt, $127 for every person who shows up on Thursday. If you vote for this today, your opponent in 2024 gets to write on a mailer that you voted to wine and dine the entire district for $124 a head. And some of these people are only getting breakfast. Actually, they're getting carnival food, so that'll look good too. You'll also be voting for pyrotechnics and sand artist performance. I don't think that's going to look good for you. I would recommend that you pull it and vote on it separately. I wouldn't want that hanging around my neck next year. All right, jump it to 23, 25, and 27. I was an instructional system design program manager for the government for 16 and a half years. And we had 3 different types of LMS: commercial, off the shelf, software as a service, and government owned. Government owned is the most expensive, and it's the Gucci thing. My command, the Commander Naval Air Force Atlantic, paid $120,000 a year to buy the Gucci government-owned LMS to cover 5 Marine Corps air stations on 2 coasts for less money than you're doing for 1 high school. And they didn't need coaching either. How is that possible? You don't have enough information to make a good decision. I know it because I had to make the same decisions. I would never make this kind of decision based on 3 sentences. I'm telling you, this is a bad price.
Thank you. Again, since this is an agendized item, board, feel free to make comment.
May we pull the long list? Sorry, let me look at this. 8 through 15. 8 through 15 to vote on them separately.
Eight through 15. 8 through 15 will be pulled. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just like some rationale for sub 8 for numbers 8 through
rationale on why to pull those?
No, rationale is to the expense.
Oh, gotcha.
I also, I appreciate the comments and we're not to respond, but.
No, we can respond as an agenda as time.
I do believe that, you know, we are kind of put at a situation where we are last minute and these contracts have been signed. And there is clauses, because we do have the attachments, the board does. And I think, how do we go about providing an event that encourages our staff and brings up the morale, and where I like the 30-day clause idea, but I think that there needs to be a little bit more planning, and I understand we've kind of run into a couple of staffing challenges, and so, but I think, how do we go forward with this? I know we're 2 days away from the back to school breakfast that I know has been hard to try to recover. I know there's been some talk of trying to get back to the church, but they were booked. That's as much information as I know. So I'm gonna redirect, I guess, to Dr. Mishra.
They're not booked.
They're not.
No, they won't let us go. They're not allowing us space for the event at Shadow.
Yeah, we requested, would you like me to comment?
Yes, please.
We requested Shadow Mountain's space. We've had their generosity for the first 7 years of our Welcome Back breakfast at no cost to them. They even videotaped and provided AV support, again at no cost to us, which was amazing. Their programming and their what they said was increased enrollment has not allowed them to give us that space during the time period because they're starting their school year too. That was a last minute change. We had anticipated using that space. We looked at what's the church by Hillsdale?
Cajon.
Skyline couldn't accommodate more than half of our employees, and so it was last minute. I apologize that we didn't have more time. We thought San Diego State was a cost savings from the county country to the tune of about a third of the cost, and the stage setup, in order to have the AV presentation, the Jumbotron is available for certain AV, but doesn't have the pixelation to have the video and the impact of the displays that we want during the keynote speech, as well as staff presentations or recognizing of our stars in education, as well as some really delightful performances that I think will surprise and delight staff and give them an uplifting start to their school year, as they've grown to expect over the last 10 years. Part of the cost for 8 is the construction of the stage. If you've been to a graduation ceremony at San Diego State, it looks much different than a basketball game. It requires construction and repurposing. We're utilizing some of their internal AV, but need to bring in our own AV, which is Benson and DCI on 10 and 11. The cost to provide full breakfast and lunch for 3,000 employees, I would say it is not exorbitant at $159,798, but it's a full breakfast and also gluten-free and different options for staff that have dietary needs. 12 pyrotechnics. We had hoped to have an indoor drone show. It didn't work because the RFP didn't allow for the radio frequency. San Diego State had used as pyrotechnics. They said this will be an additional measure. I'm hoping our staff aren't listening, so they're surprised and delighted by the show that Scott and John will introduce with Little Poppers. And the Grable Group is a sound performance. The artist was a finalist on America's Got Talent and weaves our district storyline and through line of Cajon Valley CVU Belong into his story, and I think will be a great way to end a very uplifting program. And that covers all the items in relation to the Welcome Back program.
Thank you, Dr. Miyashiro, and hearing what Karen's saying, I can't help but wonder, at this point our vote would just be symbolic, there's no way that a no vote would have any impact whatsoever on something happening in 36 hours or so. So that is a concern. And I think I think Karen, you said this, I think our staff is more than deserving of the appreciation events that that this is going to be. So I don't want that to get lost in my concern that we're sitting up here and really our vote wouldn't matter in any way, as far as I could tell. It's either we vote yes and it happens, or we vote no and it happens. Another two, sorry, I know there's a discussion on this, so if I'm mixing this up, Mr. President, let me know, but Family Forces Inc., I want to pull that one to have a separate discussion, and number 25 and 26.
I'm catching up.
So we have 8 through 14 and 25 and 26.
Family Forces Inc.
Yeah, Family Forces Inc., number 26.
Okay, what's the question?
So this MOU looks to me eerily similar. Should we start discussion now, Mr. President, or wait until we?
Now, let's go ahead.
What?
And then that way, when we get to the vote, we'll vote on all the items that were not pulled, because that motion is pending, and then we'll separately vote on the ones that have been pulled. But the motion's pending, yeah, we'll vote like that. The motion's pending, so it'll just be a vote, it won't be a re-motion, it will be second.
So we're gonna proceed to vote on
Everything that's
the
not
list
pulled.
minus 8 through, okay, gotcha. Okay, we'll do that.
So we can discuss all of it at this point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Family Forces Inc. Their MOU looks eerily similar to San Diego Youth Services, which in somewhat related matter, I'm happy to report that Grossmont Union High School District has ended all of their contractual relationships with San Diego Youth Services as well. They did so in July. So this says that we will, 26, and it's called Family Forces Inc. is the attachment.
Military dependent families.
This is
Counseling support for students of military families.
Oh, yeah, that's
So on page 2, under item 3, district responsibilities, so 3B, page 2, top of page 2, facilitate awareness of the services offered by the provider in the district and community via communication, collaboration, and information sharing. And then I'm going to D, skipping C. Supply direct access for provider to academic and discipline files, including the cumulative file of the student, I presume. I think this board knows I have a knee-jerk reluctance to allowing any outside groups in to access or look at data or offer mental health type support services to a group identified by any sort of, whether it's military families or opportunity youth is a word I see a lot nowadays. So that, like, targeting a certain group of students and then saying, let's look for people we can help with our mental health services. I am just, like I said, knee-jerk reluctant to even do that. I think our staff I think our staff ought to, and probably are, continue to be trained to identify individuals, regardless of whatever background they come from or protected class they may belong to, who need help, involve the parents immediately in that, unless the parent is deemed unfit by a court of law, and then go from there. But I don't see the parent involvement piece on this I just scanned through this. So maybe it is there.
I think I
that's
see
not
it on
something-
3C, identification and referral of eligible students with parental consent for services to provided.
Okay,
So what we can do, if the access point on D is a concern, depending on what you wanna do, it would be possible that we can adjust the contract with the removal of D. C does call out consent by parent.
got it, thank you.
You can't get to D without going through C.
Okay.
That's the way I read it.
Yeah, I just skipped right over that, didn't even see the parental consent there on the line. So, is every interaction with this group contingent on parental consent prior to then?
Yes.
Okay,
Would they have to be because they would have to first disclose military status?
Yes, our counselors, vet if it's a military dependent that's going to receive services.
okay,
Well, again, note that on D, it says, within ethical and legal guidelines. And going into the student's file is very different, right, than just the student themselves talking to a counselor. So that requires parental consent to get into the student's file.
okay.
So do you want to still pull that
With the parental involvement, it looks clear there. No, let's leave that.
Okay, 26 will remain on the overall vote then.
And then the other one, 25, one stone. So, on this one, there's smart coach assessment tools. I don't know what they're assessing with the students, but whenever we have a new software coming in that may be assessing a student on some metric aside from like reading or literacy or mathematics or some academic measure, if there's, oh, hi Narelle. So I want to ensure that the district could be responsive. If a parent comes in and says, hey, I want to see the curriculum, the supplementals, the teacher training, all of the data that's being collected on my child, that we can be responsive to that, that the parents know and give permission prior to anything beyond like standard academic metrics of performance being collected on their child.
Well, recognizing that competency-based learning is a different concept overall in the lexicon of education is a I don't know why it's a cutting-edge philosophy, it shouldn't be, but it is a cutting-edge philosophy on the competency of the student moving up or down based upon their competencies based and what they've been able to demonstrate to their staff. Narelle, I mean, again, going back to our time at Gibson Neck up at Seattle. Narelle, if you could please comment to that for trustee Marmolin.
One of our challenges over the past 2 years has been how to create an accountability system with regards to competency-based frameworks. And so the partnership with both Gibson Neck and One Stone is basically focusing on 2 school systems that have done this really well, that have developed out metrics to allow us to really dive into the data. We had a partnership with an organization called NUVU, which is through MIT, where we were having a lot of difficulty with what you're talking about. And so that was where we ended that part of the relationship, and we wanted to focus in specifically in how to really pull out strong data within a competency-based framework. And so that's the focus with the partnership with One Stone. One Stone, the allowance of us being able to pull data is fantastic, but the beautiful part about it is working with a system that has incredible success with students getting into UC schools, right, into schools across the nation, as well as strong coaching around competency-based frameworks, as well as how to do strong project work. It's the whole gamut, which is the jackpot of what we've been looking for in terms of a really strong partnership. And so that's the reason why we've been very thrilled to be able to work with them.
So what sort of data would be pulled?
Data such as how are students doing, metrics around what are our needs in terms of competencies that perhaps more students need more focus in on. Data in terms of levels, right, and sort of where are areas that we need to perform more in, or areas that we need more targeting support, right? The typical types of metrics that we're looking towards within a system of school, right? And so it's not looking at other sort of demographic data and all of that. It's specific to the competency. So this is really targeting the learning itself.
Learning, is there any emotional data being gathered?
You know, this is specifically back to our competencies as a site.
Got it. Academic. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Continue forward.
No, leave that one on, and then I have a question.
Leave it on
Mr.
as,
President.
leave it on the overall?
Yeah.
So don't pull.
Yeah, correct, and then if we pull, or since we're pulling 8 through 15 separately, then we discuss and vote on those separately, and if we decide, for example, just hypothetically, that 8, 11, 12, 13, or we would like to vote on those again separately, and then the other, you know what I mean, like dividing it a second time, is that possible?
Well, I think it makes more sense. So the entire item, right, is under 8D. So under Robert's rules, all discussion should be covered now for all items. I don't mind changing it around, but for right now, that's how I think we should be somewhat mandated to proceed.
Okay. All right, so let me look at 10. Pyro spectaculars is number 12. And the sand artist is number 14. Those are the two. Now, I feel a little bit under duress to vote on the rest, but if, like, I don't want to blow up this event, and I don't think our vote no vote would do that anyway. But those two, the pyrotechnics and the sand artists, then would be the two that I'd really be concerned with in that list. I'm concerned with the whole batch, just in the sense that, again, our vote seems symbolic at this point, no matter what we do. But those two, I would actually like to vote separately on than the other raft of them. And then KS Consulting, I think that's a talented consultant who's got a lot of experience in the district. Number 15, sorry, I'm bouncing around, this is a long list.
I'm with you.
The focus on world of work and behavioral platforms, again, is a concern of mine. The amount of funds and talent resources that goes to those programs in our district. So that would be my only comment on that before voting on it.
May I add a detail to 15?
Yes.
In the scope of work in the attachment, it is also to assist administrators, principals, and assistant principals in implementing their site plans. In addition to, I know we only have a short blurb here, but in the scope, it is supporting admin at each site to implement their site plan based on whether you're new or not, which we have a lot of new staff, and to tailor the plan and implementation with the staff unique to that site. So I just didn't want the illusion it's only around World of Work.
27 independent sites.
27 independent sites with a full site plan.
We have 9 new principals, correct?
And
plus a number of new APs.
Right, I just wanted to add that detail, that is in the scope of work on 15.
Can I also just get a little clarification? I think Janice Foley Photography, it says for professional learning. I mean, that is a minimal cost at this point, but is there any little more elaboration on that?
I don't think they're providing professional learning, they're gonna be our photographers for the event.
Oh, got it.
That may be.
No, it's for the professional learning session.
Oh, I see.
That's how it's. See how you read through it?
Right, sorry.
So the session has photography associated.
The text is kind of small, and I'm getting things mixed up too here. With 27 items on here. I guess, welcome back. Hope everyone enjoyed their summer.
Anthony, are we keeping 15 on the overall consent, or are we still voting that independently for your request?
Okay, we'll keep 15.
So we'll vote separately on 12 and 14, and everything else remains on the overall item for 8D.
Yes.
So those are
I'll say it under duress on 8 through 14, but
Understood.
12 through 14, I'd like to pull on and vote.
12 and 14.
12 and 14.
12 and 14. Yes, thank you.
All right, so this is how we're gonna handle this, folks.
Just 12 and 14.
12 and 14. President, I say things last typically, not always, but that's how I'm supposed to do it. I as well join with the other board members' comments. I think 12 and 14, probably not necessary. Probably could have found something else to entertain. At the same point in time, I fully recognize and appreciate deeply our staff, the time I've been here, and have come to learn, you know, public sector education is different than my life in the private sector. And I want to make sure that our employees know that they're welcome back, that we want them back. We want them energetic, so when they show up the first day of school and they have, you know, 20 TK kids and 23 third graders, and God love those who are getting those sixth graders for the first time in middle school. Well, they're a little scared. They might be a little bit easier to handle, but the eighth graders who are all surly and why am I not in high school yet? I want them really happy. I want our staff really happy to deal with them. Although I'm not sure if sand sculpture is really the way to go. Okay.
You haven't seen it yet.
I acknowledge that.
I trust that. Actually, I've seen sand sculpture. It's pretty powerful.
And as a member of the Marshall Falk Foundation for 8 years, I am well aware with our interaction with San Diego State that Aztec Shops requires us to use Aztec Shops. I understand how that particular works just from independent experience on that philanthropy work. Being a former Aztec athlete myself and going through and knowing those folks. So I know that if we go there, we're stuck with Aztec Shops. I'm aware of that. We don't have the opportunity to have an outside vendor, caterer, etc. So with those comments, we have a motion. 12 and 14 will be voted on separately. Please vote on 8D less 12 and 14.
Are we voting on all of them then?
On all of them,
Minus
plus
12 and
12
14.
and 14. 12 and 14.
So the total cost of 1,100,002 is going to be much less, minus those items. I just want to say that for the record.
It will reduce it by the amount of 12 and 14, yes. And also for the public record, we have all the contracts in front of us and all the MOUs. So I don't know what the public sees as far as your particular agenda on this item, but we have full contracts and full MOUs to review. Okay. I do appreciate, where did Mary go? Mary? I like the idea of 30 days, folks. I'm not gonna lie, that's an excellent idea. All right, with that, please vote.
May we have the first and second motion?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we had the first and second motion. Well, I brought up 8D.
On 8D.
Okay, so just to clarify then, 8D less 12 and 14, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Joe, second.
Second.
Second by Karen. Now we'll vote. Oh, that's right, I started the discussion after public comment. That's what happened. Got it. Well, it's important to have, right? It's important to have that discussion and work through it. Passes 4-0. Now moving to item 12 independently. Do we have a motion to approve?
Can I make a comment on 12 in regards to both 12 and 14?
Sure.
And I also appreciate your comments as well. I think right now, the board is in a situation where consultant agreements have already been signed. And it's difficult for us to approve these things because it would be under our authority for these contracts to be signed. So I understand that there's a value and importance of helping our staff to be valued 100%. So, and I like that idea of at least giving us a heads up, so that we can have something to approve rather than commit to it and then vote for it. So I want to know if we can allow the back to school event, because it's not just based on a big celebration or a carnival type thing. It's based on the value in education, personal development of all of our staff. for our staff to have an opportunity to press into personal development as well, is that correct?
I have some additional comments on rationale for that programming as well, but.
Okay, and then, so if in the future, we can budget that event so that the event itself doesn't look an exorbitant amount to our community, because I feel like I'm in a little bit of a pickle. When I saw and I'm gonna be honest, when I saw the pyrotechnics, I sent an email to Scott and I said, oh, are we going to be setting off fireworks? And he responded. So it just puts us in a bad place as far as the board goes, because we have to be accountable to the spending to our community.
And I echo Joe's comments as well. I think that everybody on the board has a concern about a couple of these items, but in particular 12 and 14, which we've identified. Again, morale of the staff is at being in school exceptionally important. But again, we need to know these things ahead of time so we can collaborate in the event we say, no, right? We can't, we've already established a protocol for purposes of site off-campus activities, right? Field trips. So we require now, although some sites have messed up, but we do require that before we authorize an off-campus activity or an expense, we have to know about it before they sign the contract, right? I don't see why this would not fall under a similar concept moving forward, but now you're in a situation where a contract is signed, we're moving forward, the event's gonna happen, and now all of a sudden we're gonna be in breach because we canceled the contract based upon a public vote. That puts, it's not just an optic to the community, which we clearly have. It becomes now an actual legal issue where we're somewhat bound to confer the contract in order to prevent backside claims of breach. It really puts us in a bad spot. And I can't think of a time that you've ever really done that, and you certainly don't intend to. But we do have to think these particular topics out a little bit farther in advance. Any comment? No, Karen has something?
I just want to say that I am not against the pyrotechnics or the sand, but I think we do need to have a better plan in the future for the whole. You know, I believe I know David has a plan of really encouraging our staff and is visionary, but I think this is where we're having a learning curve all together, and having this discussion up front, and I think is important. And so I appreciate that. So
David, feel free to have your comments.
I recognize the predicament, and that is my fault, and I'm sorry that we're in the space that's on me. We did anticipate using Shadow Mountain, and it was last minute that we had to find another space. The last two welcome backs, we've been able to have space where we have collaboration and roundtables. And so we were hoping at San Diego State to use, I think it's called Montezuma Hall, where we could do a similar style that we did with the welcome back. It wasn't available. And so the arena, which is, it's a cool space to be in, but for 3 hours to sit in that space is a long time. So we're thinking, how can we still have great content, but engage our staff in visual stimulation and things, and with the help of the San Diego State team, they gave us some ideas that they've seen in the past with concerts and other venues where they've utilized graduations, the stage space, on how to keep an audience engaged. And just like you mentioned, Jim, we want our kids, after the first day of school, to not be able to wait to come back the second day. We want that type of experience for staff when they leave the arena fired up, and I can't wait to go to school the next day. And that's the intent, and I hope that all of you will attend the full event and see the surprise and delight that I know that our staff will appreciate. But again, I apologize, and I would love to have board members assist with planning on the welcome back as well. If that's been the case in the past, it wasn't this year, but I welcome that as well.
Those explanations, do we have a motion for 12, because we're doing 12 and 14 separately?
Motion.
Motion by Karen, do we have a second?
The contract is signed, is it not?
motion, Karen, second by Joe. Any addition? I think we've exhausted discussion. Let's not, if you have something new, I have no problem, Anthony, but let's not retread.
I wasn't planning to retread.
All right, go ahead.
This is for Sandra. Is this pyrotechnics or sand? Sorry.
This is the pyrotechnics on number 12.
The pyrotechnics. The other concern we've heard from our community, I've heard from staff members too, that my concern based on things I've heard from staff is that this sand show and pyrotechnics show will be sort of the compare in stark contrast to perceived or actual shortfalls in the classroom. So I'm inclined to vote no. I don't know, again, if it changes anything, because we're legally bound, but that's where I'm at on both the sand and the pyrotechnics.
Recognize that my vote here, based upon, I'm a litigation attorney, is gonna be based on the fact that I don't wanna put us in a situation to be in breach of contract. But for that, my vote would be very different. I just want everybody to be very clear on why I'm voting. I feel that I'm in a spot that I have to vote this way. But I'm not overly happy about it, but I'm not gonna put us in a situation to be sued for 13 grand either. So with that, please vote. Verbal, everybody in favor say aye. Aye. Nays?
Nay.
You're just waiting so you can have your symbolic vote, aren't you, Anthony? I'm teasing. Passes 3-1. 14, same thing, we need a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Karen, we need a second. Second by Joe. Any further discussion, Anthony? My vote's based upon the same way, because I want to make sure that's clear on the record within the minutes.
Even in that same sense, if we had 2-2 vote, that would be still what?
It would be a push, so it wouldn't pass.
And the same circumstances fall with what you just explained as far as.
Exactly, so that's why a symbolic vote on this doesn't.
Motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
It's symbolic, so.
Yeah, the whole thing is symbolic at this particular juncture, which is unfortunate because we shouldn't have to do that. And I do not intend to do that again. I think this is the first time it's come up, and I've been on the board not all that long, but 6.5 years. All right. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Nay. That's 3-1. Anthony, I do actually appreciate you being able on that.
I do as well, thank you.
You're naying for all of us. I'm sorry, not a horse thing, but.
Not a horse thing when we said that.
I figured you did.
All right, moving over to 8E.
God, we can have some fun.
No public comments on 8E. E. It's recommended that the governing board award bid 1611 to Meridian Corp. DBA Dave Sports Sales as the lowest responsive bidder and authorize staff to execute the necessary documents. Do we have a motion on this?
Motion.
Motion by Karen, second.
Second?
Second by Joe. Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, please vote. Passes 4-0. Moving to 8F. It's recommended that the governing board award bid 1613 for office and classroom supplies to School Specialty Inc. and authorize staff to execute the documents. Do we have a motion on this matter?
Motion?
Motion by Joe. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Anthony. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Passes 4-0. Moving to 8G. It's recommended that the governing board Annual Single Plan for Student Achievement, 2023 to 2024. Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Joe, second.
Second.
Second by Karen. Questions or comments?
Every time I see Bethany's name on something, it just makes me smile, so I really wish she was presenting, so.
How do you pronounce Bethany's last name?
Schwabach.
Schwabach. Thank you, Bethany Schwabach.
With the clarification of the enunciation of Bethany's last name, please vote. Passes 4-0. Moving down to 8H, it is recommended the governing board adopt the attached resolution to approve the use of PEPPM contract number 535122-032 to purchase Pulaski software from Borderland Security, and that's not land, but land, and other potential future technology related purchases as needed. Do we have a motion? Motion by Joe, second.
Second.
Second by Anthony. Questions or comments? Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Matter passes 4-0. Coming to 8I, it's recommended that the governing board reject the Frank V. Cajon Valley Union School District claim. We have a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Karen, second.
Second.
Second by Joe. Questions or comments? Discussion.
Question, is this something that we would have heard in closed session at a prior meeting? Or this meeting?
It would have been previous.
Previous, okay. Got it.
Keep in mind that the concept behind the claims against government entities, there's a 6-month statute, right? So, claim comes in within 6 months of an incident. At the claim point, the public entity has one of two options, or one of three options: accept, reject, or wait 6 months, which is then deemed a rejection. And then from that 6 months from the rejection, either the act of rejection or the 6 months after no action, they have 6 months to file suit. It also provides time for the insurance carrier in this particular case to negotiate out terms as to what is or is not going on with the overall claim. Because very seldom in any sort of injury claim do you know what the end-all be-all is going to be within 6 months. So the concept here is basically to buy time and allow the people on the Keenan staff to do what they do, which is to find out what are the medical specials, what was the liability issue, what was the overall setting, and then determine what a value is. That's why you reject the claim, in order to start the time frame. Got it? Any other questions or discussions? Hearing none, please vote. Passes 4-0. Next item, J, it is recommended that the governing board approve the variable term waiver request. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Joe, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Karen. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, please vote. Matter passes 4-0. Moving to K, it is recommended that the governing board adopt a resolution to compensate governing board president James P. Miller for the June 27, 2023 board meeting. Hopefully we have the updated attachment. I'm pulling that up right now. The original attachment had the wrong basis checked. So I contacted Karen. The new one has the correct basis checked. So our board bylaws allow for performance and other designated duties for the district outside of the meeting to qualify for the meeting time.
Motion.
Thank you. Motion from Karen. Do we have a second? Second from Anthony. All right, I will be abstaining. Please vote. abstention. Now we come up to 8L. We do have speaker cards on 8L.
And we have talked about moving
Right.
this to closed session.
Right, but first we will take the speakers. So we will come up and for purposes of 8L, we have 2 speakers. If we will please have the first speaker take the seat and the second speaker stand right behind her. Mary, you're speaking again on this topic, and Priscilla, you'll stand right behind her, ready to go in the batter up position there, on deck position. And Ms. Davis, just like last time when the clock starts, you could go.
Okay, great, thank you. Is this on, working well?
I hear you.
Okay. Great, thank you so much. Save the battery.
These things don't last very long. Thank you, John. Of course.
Hi, Mary Davis here. So
One second, please.
There it is. The clock, I just dated myself. Anyway, Mary Davis here. So I am concerned about the ongoing lack of formalized, documented, publicly disclosed and discussed set of performance criteria and metrics for the superintendent. This continues to be an issue. I still believe this board was in violation of your own board policy 2140 if you did issue an evaluation on him last year, because I did not see anything that showed a set of anchor points for him. And I do want to refresh your memory on the board policy 2140 that says evaluation criteria shall be agreed upon by the board and superintendent prior to the evaluation and shall include but not be limited to district goals and success indicators, educational, management, and community leadership skills, and the superintendent's professional relationship with the board. And so I do bring that up. It's interesting in my research, I just went through employee performance evaluations for your district, and I came across this, and this is for a library aide. And it's one page of anchor points and listing. And I know for my job, when I worked for the city of San Diego, I ended up having, mine was 5 pages long. And certainly for a position of this caliber, I would expect a page-long document with performance anchors, criteria, and knowledge, skills, and ability. And then going back to those metrics, I think it's so important, I understand when something happens once, okay, maybe it's a coincidence, a snafu, whatever word you'd like to use. But again, I went back to August of last year, and I saw the same thing, that this event got put on for agenda ratification just days before the event, and that was August 9th. So at this point, I would like you to ask, one of the metrics is that he gives timely notice to the board for proper ratification and public input. Again, I feel like maybe you see some of the documents and things on your end, but you have to look at us. We don't see everything, and we would like to have eyes on also, and not have to do a public records report, put extra burden on your staff. Lastly, I will also go to salary. I did find an article saying that he's one of the highest paid people in or superintendents in the county, if not the state, giving Hassan Akrada a run for his money, but for the CEO of Sandbag. But I just wanted to say that for that level of compensation, he needs to be held to the highest of standards. That includes board cooperation, and then also respect for the community, both the cultural competent respect and the respect for meeting people in the middle for conservative values that are pervasive through this county. Thank you.
So you know how it works.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Priscilla Schreiber, and I'm a signer on the recent cure and correct notice regarding the superintendent's evaluation.
I will reference Government Code 54960.1. Within 30 days of receipt of the demand, the legislative body shall cure or correct the challenged action and inform the demanding party in writing. This will explain their actions to cure and correct, or inform the demanding party in writing of its decision not to cure or correct the challenged action. I have yet to receive anything in writing and am aware that meeting the timeline to cure and correct is not of importance to this board. As no evaluation was publicly posted for tonight's closed session agenda, this board's most important charge is hiring, evaluating, and terminating the superintendent. For one of the highest paid superintendents in the state who skates by without being held to a proper, much less higher standard by this board is almost criminal. I ask that you table this item until you complete the first leg of the evaluation and provide last year's goals and objectives as your roadmap before going forward. Board meetings follow policies and procedures traditionally created to manage operations and are often characterized as ritualistic, systematic, and programmed. Although local boards are authorized by state law to adopt their own procedures, they are bound by law to follow those procedures once adopted. For example, notice of meetings must conform to state sunshine laws, and business must be conducted in public, unless an exception to state law permits the executive session authorizing the board to deliberate in private. Local boards typically consist of members who possess divergent individual agendas and sometimes a limited set of mutually shared values and beliefs. Nevertheless, existing school board policies, existing procedures, and regularized customs and practices create and then enforce a unifying culture within the school board that is designed to maintain effective governance. This current culture is toxic because you will not follow your own policies and bylaws. It is my hope that you have the courage to change the culture. Follow your governing board bylaws, protocols, and procedures, and hold yourselves accountable. And the superintendent. Thank you.
As this matter is agendized, do we have any comments or discussion from the board?
I know the plan is to adjourn to closed session because this can obviously tread on some personnel matters. With regard to how the evaluation of the superintendent wasn't agendized in this year, 2023, I looked at the Mesa Spring Valley, Alpine, Lakeside, Santee, and in every one of their evaluations, it seems like they all do them around May or June. It said the words evaluation and superintendent. And in years past, 2022, 2021, Cajon Valley, same thing on our agenda, evaluation of the superintendent, which meets the open meetings requirement that the public would have had the opportunity at that point to comment on that agenda item, although it is in closed session prior to the board's deliberation on that item. I feel like announcing the goals is sort of skipping to the end, like we were teeing off at the box and we missed it, now we're pulling out a putter, we're gonna putt it into the fairway and just golf cart to the next hole. So I think in order to cure this, we would actually need to put on the closed session agenda at the next meeting, evaluation of the superintendent, giving the public proper notice and opportunity to comment. So my motion for this item would be to, I don't know if it's table it, because I almost want to remove it and start back at the beginning on the evaluation so that we can properly cure this, in my view.
Other comments from the board? Okay, so my comments. One, we've already done the evaluation of the superintendent. It was agendized.
What agenda was it on?
When we did the evaluation of the superintendent, also you've had your opportunity to stop. Just give me a moment, please, Anthony. We have the opportunity to have the discussion. His evaluation is tied to LCAP as well as Gallup poll results. That's been going on for at least the last couple of years, which you're now aware of. So this cure and correct is to do the evaluation out and then to provide, as it states here, our requirements jointly identified the performance goals, which are again tied to LCAP and tied to Gallup, which are publicly and very thoroughly gone through. I understand your position, without question, I understand your position. But it's a nuance without a difference at some point in time. The fact of the matter is, we've complied. This is the last step of compliance. We didn't have a meeting in July. We were going to agendize it when you and I had this conversation back in June. This was the first meeting since the opportunity to cure and correct. So we are acting as timely as our scheduling allowed. So those are my comments on the matter. Also, unless there's additional comment, the idea at this point is again to move to closed session on this item after our meeting, and we will report back out of closed session on those particular identified performance goals.
Additional comment, yes.
Yeah.
So there was no evaluation of the superintendent put on the agenda in 2023. And I'm looking at the May 23rd meeting, which I assume you're referring to, and I acknowledge that we did adjourn to closed session at that meeting and then go, I won't say much more, but do what is being, what's the word? It's your contention that we did an evaluation. However, on that agenda, there's no public notice that there's an evaluation of the superintendent. The basing the evaluation of the superintendent off of Gallup surveys or LCAP goals would not be consistent with the board policy 2140 evaluation of the superintendent, nor the superintendent's employment agreement, nor the board policy 2121 on the superintendent's contract, which spells out specific metrics, doesn't mention Gallup surveys or LCAP goals. It says that the board, and I know you said that I'm aware that I was told by David that sometime, I think in 2020, that it was decided that his evaluation would be based off of Gallup surveys and
because the metrics for those are extensive. It's not it. Those metrics on the LCAP as well as the Gallup goal that we've established in this district, which is substantially in excess of other districts that do not do those particular adhesion.
I would say it falls short because we're supposed to be, first of all, the evaluation criteria says right in our board policy shall be agreed upon by the board and superintendent prior to the evaluation. So whatever board was here in 2020, it's moot. I did not agree to an evaluation criteria. The superintendent did not reach out to me prior to the evaluation to provide the board for its review or report of progress toward district goals. I found out we were doing an evaluation when we sat down in closed session, and I believe I expressed that at the time. It's like I was caught by surprise. And there's really no way to fix this without going back and giving the public proper notice that there's an evaluation of the superintendent, like all of the neighboring districts have done, like we've done in years past, like probably every district in the state has done. Our agenda does not have it anywhere, I'm telling you, as a point of fact. I don't think it's a huge deal, but I don't think we cure this unless we put the evaluation of the superintendent on the agenda and give the public the opportunity to comment prior to our deliberation.
Recognizing that your opinion is separate and apart from what legal advice has been on this topic.
I've received no legal advice. Was there legal advice given?
Yes.
Why wasn't that shared with the board?
It has been shared with the board.
I have not received it.
You and I have had that discussion, Anthony, that this matter was reviewed with legal as to how we were to cure and correct. That's how we do things when a legal issue comes up.
We had a discussion prior to that you would review with legal. I have not heard any or seen any opinion from our legal counsel. Have any of the other board members heard or seen a legal opinion from, I assume, Dan Chinnock?
When we had the discussion in June about placing this item back on the agenda, this is how we are curing and correcting based upon advice of counsel.
Where is the advice of counsel? Can we see it in closed session or call Dan? I would like to. We know that before I make a decision.
We certainly can put him back on speakerphone. I have no problem doing that in closed session.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Okay, no problem. With that, do we have a motion to move this item to closed session?
Motion to move it to closed session.
Moved by Joe, second. I'll second
Second.
that myself. Second by Karen. Please vote. It'll be a verbal vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? No nays. Matter passes 4-0. Moving to communications, moment of silence.
Hey, we're supposed to adjourn now, aren't we?
No, we adjourn at the conclusion of the meeting.
Okay.
And we come back out and we report. Got it.
Got it, okay.
Communications, moment of silence. Karen?
We do, we have two. Donald Cope recently passed away. Donald was a part of the CVUSD family for 31 years before retiring in 1989 as a teacher at Greenfield Middle School. Donald continued to sub for a few years after his retirement. Also, Carol Clark recently passed away. Carol was part of the CVUSD family for 35 years before retiring in 1997 as a counselor at Greenfield Middle School. Carol continued to support CVUSD on Cajon Valley Ed Foundation and other volunteer roles as well.
Thank you for that, Karen. Moment of silence for both of our individuals, please. Thank you. Thank you. Michelle, retirements?
We have 4 retirements to announce this evening. Our first is Sarab Habib Cookson. She's a Greenfield teacher who has worked for the district for 24 years. Carrie Hart, an APE teacher that's worked in many, many sites across the entire district, is retiring. Actually, she retired in June. But Carrie will have worked with the district for 42 years. And Virginia Wilhite, she's a Bostonia Global Charter School elementary school teacher. And Virginia was with the district for 18 years. And Vicki Keys, a paraeducator at Flying Hills, is retiring after 25 years of service with the district. So a lot of really fabulous people with many, many years in common.
Well, thank them for their service. It's always sad to see such institutional knowledge go, but wish them well, and of course I'm sure you'll capture them and come on back at some
We'll get them
point.
back.
Next, we go into public participation. That is 9C. We have a few speaker cards this evening. As those of you who have seen the previous speakers, we'll have the first speaker come up, sit at the desk, please. And the next 2 stand behind them in the on-deck circle. So, Mark Hall, if you'll please come up and take the seat. Chrissy, if you'll please stand behind Mr. Hall. And Mr. Barrero will be the next one.
Good evening, Board President Miller and board members, also Superintendent Yashiro, your staff. My name is Mark Anthony Hall. I'm the Executive Director of Manhood ABC. You see me probably wearing here, which stands for the Adolescent Behavior Challenge. I just want to say, first of all, I'm partial to this district because I used to work with boys in men mentoring. And I was in 6 of your schools, so I've mentored your boys for 3 years in Greenfield. Actually, it's my favorite. I heard the name pop up a couple times, but I was there in Greenfield. But the Manhood Adolescent Challenge we work with, we hear a lot of social and emotional issues. Well, you add learning loss, learning recovery, post-COVID anxiety. As my mother would say, home training is missing. And I'm looking at your promise number 4, which is build community. We are a community-based organization. And this is, I'm on a 20 board tour. This is my 12th board meeting since June 16th. And this is fabulous because I get to, let me just say, first of all, I Googled all of you all. And I've seen your pictures, I've seen your backgrounds, your bios, and this is my chance to look at you face to face and say hello, first and foremost. Let you see me. But the main thing is I want to say, since schools got back into COVID, USD did a metric study on our program. Every boy that's been in our program, their grades went up 27%. The great news is that the discipline went down 85%. Basically, the boys are showing up to school, behaving themselves, doing the work, and graduating out of middle school, which is one of our main goals. We also have a part of our program called What All Boys Should Know. The counselors insisted that we start at third grade, so we can't teach math at the third graders. But what we do is a lot of bonding, a lot of time in with boys who do not have a positive male role model in their life. And so I'm coming out seeking, especially Superintendent Bashir, find a way to partner with you, with your staff. I always tell everybody, before the pandemic, we still have an epidemic. There's a lot of boys, and let me first of all say, I can't compliment school teachers enough. But there has to be a partnership with the community because a lot of families are failing the boys. If the family fails, community fails, you all get it all as you've got already right now, to some degree. I'm hoping that you will partner with more community groups where we can come in. Our slogan is that we're here to help. My favorite slogan is, I used to be a boy. I remember at church, nobody wanted 7th, 8th, 9th grade boys at church. Are you kidding? I used to be a boy. Nobody wants to teach Bible class to boys. And so that's how I got first started. I had some tough boys, but I've never seen what I call a bad boy. Just a lot of the basic home training is missing. We have a 100-point curriculum on man, how to be a good man, what it means to man up, how to live in a multicultural society, anger management, learning styles. We do it all. Thank you for your time, board. Good to see you and meet you.
Thank
We're all
you.
ready.
Hello. I'm here to speak about the safety focus groups that have been meeting and the safety kind of thing as a whole. I know we're paying quite a bit of money for educators, is it collaborative or something? Cooperative to come in and help out with that, and missing Ed around. However, it's been hard, even though I'm a part of the focus group, to kind of get information on the focus group. It's not really promoted well to a lot of the parents. And although when I get there, I really like what Jeremy and Ryan have kind of set up. But I don't think for the focus group, for instance, I was there, Mary was there, Anthony was there, and then another woman who did not have a translator, so she was not able to communicate with the safety meeting at all. The second one I went to, it was as far as parents, or I don't know if Anthony was there as a parent or not, but it was me, Anthony, Edith, who's also an LCC parent, and another parent from Hillsdale. Edith actually came home early from Riverside, and I couldn't help but notice that had Edith not been there, it would have been a room full of just white people from LCC area. And I think that moving forward, engaging the community to help get other factions of their own community there would be helpful, as well as not just having it more like webinar based, but really hearing a lot more from the community as far as like what they see their needs are as well. It kind of already seems like the draft is planned, and I know you have to have a planned draft, but I would like to see how the draft is changing, how community input is being used, and more outreach to more community members. Like, we tout a lot that we have a huge Muslim Chaldean community, and I couldn't help but notice that there was not one in any of the rooms I was in. And the one that was there wasn't able to participate. So I think that's something we need to fix, and why aren't we using social media to get parents involved in this? You have to go to a safety website, click a little tiny link, and then hope to hear back. And I think that even the way it's set up now, one parent in 7th and 8th grade from each school site really isn't a representation of what a focus group should be. And that's it.
Hello again. One of the things I don't miss about being retired from civil service is the agony that I watched you all go through today, being backed into the corner. I know that feeling, and it's surreal because it's a fascinating experience being in charge of taxpayer funds. It becomes routine to spend taxpayer money. That's your job, but it's never trivial. That's the challenge. You You have to be able to spend it well and defend it well and articulate it well. And what's interesting is that when you're sitting on top of a pot of money like that, you go to these meetings and things change. You're a little taller, you're a little more handsome, all your jokes are funny, you're never late. But the same meeting, you get the icy stare, you get the glare from the person who wants to know, why didn't you spend money on the library? And you get the icy stare from the other person who wants to know, why did you spend so much money? Why did you waste taxpayer money? That all happens in the same meeting, and you never know when it's going to happen. You're always on guard. You have to be gracious and skeptical. You got to be firm, and you got to engage with everyone. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. So what I did to survive is I vowed not to get back into a corner. Don't get back into a corner by getting good information. If you don't get good information, it's an automatic no. Even if it's a good program, even if it's a good idea, even if it comes from good people, it's an automatic no. You said that, and what happened today will happen to you. I would also encourage you to think about, it might not be symbolic to vote no. We have a contracting officer in the room, we were talking. I encourage you to talk to him. There are termination clauses for contracts. There might have been reduced rates for late cancellation, but I didn't hear that come out, so you weren't given that choice. You might want to find out if that was there and why you weren't given a choice before you voted. And I would encourage the staff to be careful, because there's this thing called an unauthorized commitment, where if you're the one who signs a bottom line on the contract and you weren't really authorized to do it, then at least in my job, I don't know your contract, but in my job, if you sign that bottom line and you weren't authorized, you can end up paying the bill out of your own pocket. And $14,000 isn't a lot to the board, $378 million budget. That's a whole heck of a lot to an average staff working American. So protect yourself. All of you talk to lawyers to find out what your options are. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this guy.
Next speaker, Priscilla, please take the microphone. Lee, you will follow her, and then Mary after that. And we have one last speaker after that, Cajon Georges. Please feel free to be the fourth one up, sir.
I had a speech just looking at myself. There it is.
We have another speaker?
We do, it was turned in, after the meeting started.
We'll accept that.
Okay.
Correct. Board member Alegria apologizes, she had to take a moment. So the clock starts.
I don't know, am I on?
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment that I wasn't prepared to make, but I'm just gonna say your habits of curing correct. Under Shinoff is not satisfactory. He's an attorney who can count to 3. I hope you take that under advisement. I'd like to address the World of Work item 9K that was tabled at the last board meeting and was not brought back to this agenda. This will die if a motion to pick it up off the table is not made and carried at this meeting. Those of us who were here last month witnessed a unanimous vote by the board wanting more information, a repayment schedule, and an amended repayment agreement. The original repayment agreement is delinquent and no formal action by this board to address this issue to date. Has the WOW Foundation board taken up the matter once it was tabled? I encourage this board to motion, second, and carry this item to be agendized at the next board meeting. I would also ask that a full and complete audit of WOW monies received and expended to date from inception be presented. What constitutes a WOW expense versus professional development versus consultants? What are these budgets? Shouldn't the WOW Foundation be funding travel irregardless of being professional development? It seems to be a WOW presentation for the benefit of WOW. I would also ask that you go back and see how many consultant agreements and contracts have been ratified putting this board in the same snare as tonight. It happens more frequently than not. I'd like to say it's encouraging to see the board deliberate, even if it's the community that looks to you to show better oversight by questioning such things. Thank you.
Thank you.
I signed up for this just because I didn't know that I'd get a chance to say everything that was under 8D. And of course, when I listen, I hear more when I come to these meetings. And I know you gotta book events way in advance. I'm a portrait photographer and I used to shoot weddings. And when I did weddings, you've gotta get the event, you've gotta get money down. It doesn't just happen in 30 days. So when it comes to planning an event and getting it ratified, I think you need more than 30 days, you know? Especially you won't be able to get a space at Shadow Mountain unless you're giving them some advance notice to, or wherever you wind up. I think my big takeaway though has been the teachers, I really don't think they need to be entertained. I don't know, maybe you need to get the staff all riled up and excited about school, but the teachers are concerned about getting support in the class. And that's another reason I'm here too, is I have some dear teacher friends here in Cajon Valley, and they're just trying to cope with kids that speak different languages and having kids in the classroom that are on IEPs, and they need to go in and out of class, and they just need help. And they want help in the classroom. They want more than a 2% raise. I think that would speak a lot more to them than a fancy breakfast. They were very happy with what was going on before, where it was simple. They'd see their friends and they would have a breakfast. But I don't think they need lots of cheerleading stuff. This isn't a sales event. These are educators. And the other thing I wanted to add on to was there was $65,000 for the African Alliance. And again, I just feel like as a foreigner who lived in another country, as an American, I was learning like I was back in kindergarten when I got immersed in German. And this was living, I'm a San Diego native, I'd studied Spanish for 8 years, and then I wound up in Germany. So I'm there with people from all different countries becoming citizens. And so I had these great workbooks, and because none of us spoke German, we learned by pictures, we learned by interacting. I learned way more German in that little short space of time at the Volkshochschule than I ever did in my Spanish. I mean, it just caught up. So I would just ask you to think about that, since you have so many different languages and you've got kids at different levels, and if they're already giving you money to help the parents, you probably have more parent participation too if they understood the language and the customs of alcohol. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
I waited this time. So I'm Mary Davis here. So I do want to share, I have deep concerns about this district. Again, I am a government watchdog. I go throughout the county, and I do find problems on almost every chamber, but here's my core issues with this district. Before I get into them numerically, I do also want to give as background, I am familiar with Cure and Correct. I'm not a lawyer. I don't even pretend to be a lawyer. But what I did do is file a Brown Act complaint against the Board of Supervisors. And they ended up having to re-vote on it for the vaccine mandate for new hires. And I'm going to tell you how they did it. They ended up having to re-agendaize it. They put on there that it was being cured and correct, and that they were going to rescind the original vote, and then they were going to re-vote on it. So I'm just going my archival experience and what happened at the Board of Supervisors. Second, my number one concern, fiscal stewardship for this district. And again, going back to last year, I understand your staff, your employees absolutely deserve to be celebrated. They deserve to be treated well and to have morale boosters. I don't deny that as a taxpayer, but when I saw $735,000 last year, I kind of thought, well, is this like the COVID money free slowly? And I'm glad to see you dialed it back this year. But again, let's balance that sense of stewardship, because somebody has worked hard for that money, and I'd like you to spend it like it's your family's money and not just magical taxpayer money. I'm also concerned about WOW and the separation. I'm concerned about the lack of repayment, the lack of transparency, and the lack of accountability, both to answering the taxpayers and then to showing us and to keep those eggs separate in different baskets. So I would like to see a lot more upping your game when it comes to the WOW program. And then lastly, I will say, and this really speaks to the heart, and you know, I can look at a teacher and I can probably superintendents to board members, and you can tell people that really care about kids, the way they interact with them, the way they get down on their level and look at them. And so I do want to make sure that I'm concerned about the heart and intent of anybody involved in this district at all levels. As a watchdog, again, across various entities, I've seen far too many instances of people using the poor and marginalized for their own political gain. So I'm hoping everybody here really is about putting the kids first. This district, with its unique demographics, is ripe for being used by those who might seek a professional feather in their cap and for political posturing. So please, always, whatever decision you make, the kids have to come first. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jordan.
Hello everybody, my name is Nishwan Georges, and I'm a dad, and I'm an mentor for a lot of kids in your schools. So unfortunately, we are not seeing in our school a lower education scores, and a lot of books, or actually some books, were not related to the kids' age or education in their library or their shelves. And then at the same time, we have seen some illegal advertisements on on your school's walls and doors. They are related to another organization, not the school itself. They are making ads for sites. It's not related to the schools or our kids' education. So after that, we hear that there's a very shy and late action happen for those stickers, which is we need to check again. So another thing I would like to mention for whoever responsible, where is your audit system, tools and members, and where is your trained people who have managed better education for our kids? Another thing, how can we trust in the future that's not going to be happening again? Because at least in verbal way to the kids. So something else, and excuse me because this is the first time I talk with a lot of people in different language. So whoever responsible have to get evaluate his job or performance, because our school should always be safe, professional, and neutral environment managed by professional, neutral, honest people, no matter what their religion, gender, or color. Thank you so much.
President Miller, Jim, thanks for making the exception. I appreciate it.
Well, you're wearing my shirt, so.
I just want to bring up a few basic things that I think we should all consider. First of all, the concept of freedom of speech. That there is this thing called the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, or forbidding the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So my concern is that I don't know how you try to justify it, whether you're a board member trying to silence the speech of another board member, or the superintendent's trying to silence the speech of a board member. I would just challenge you in saying that it's not acceptable. Okay? It's just not acceptable. And I want to turn this up to the subject of transparency. I have to admit that I am spoiled on this issue. I'm on the Alpine Fire Board, and we got an award from CSDA, California Special Districts, on full excellence in disclosure and issues to that matter. And then on San Diego LAFCO, we just don't hear that. So I hear a lot of issues of transparency tonight, and I'm just asking, do you want to continue to be a board that's known for lacking transparency? I want to challenge you. Just get it fixed. Get everything disclosed, get it done. Jim, in your business as an attorney, you have to have endless disclosure. I know you. I have to have endless disclosure in the health and life insurance that I handle. The last subject is parental rights. There are so many communities nationwide that are standing up. They've had enough. Recent was Chino Hills, Marietta, Maryland, Virginia. Don't think that it can't happen here. Listen to the parents. They're the voters. They're the customers. I want to urge you to do that and make changes and respond to them. Listen to what they're saying and make changes. So I just would encourage you to do that. The last thing I would mention, though, you have this policy that you're not supposed to have banners. It's against your advertising policy. Why are they still allowed on the campuses then? It's against your board policy. The superintendent should be policing that and getting it done. So I hope that you guys make changes, because there's a revolution probably coming next year and nationwide on voting, and don't think that it can't happen here. Thank you.
Thank you. CVEA. Mark, CSEA.
Good evening, board, superintendent, cabinet. I want to start off by talking about comments made off this dais. We as a district, every employee here has to take Keenan training videos every year. One of them sexual harassment. And more to the point is SB 1343. And that's protected classes of sexual harassment. It includes gender identity and just basic gender.
Mark, can you speak into the microphone?
Is that better? All right. So, if some of the comments that were made off this dais happen in any one of our sites or any one of our lunchrooms by any principal, by any supervisor, by any classified, by any certificated, they would be terminated with that kind of language that was given off this dais. This district has an obligation to protect our staff. We have a legal obligation to investigate and protect our staff. We've had members in this audience who work for this district that are protected by SB 1343. Now that opens this district up for litigation. And your insurance will not protect you or pay for that kind of litigation. That litigation comes straight out of our general fund. What good does that do for our students with that kind of rhetoric that's coming off this dais? It does nothing. Protect our employees. Do the best for our children. And those comments off this dais should never happen in this district. Again, you have a legal obligation to protect these employees and these kids of this district. And those people directly are affected, these employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody from CVAA? Ryan?
Good evening. As the president of the Cajon Valley Administrators Association, I represent our administrative team in all departments and school sites. Our members have been hard at work in preparation for the opening of schools with excitement and anticipation as we welcome both new and returning students next Wednesday. We have many great new additions to our administrative team as we focus on creating a culture of belonging for all. Many of our team have been busy interviewing and hiring new teachers and classified staff over the last several weeks. It's been a common theme that many of our applicants have sought out Cajon Valley here in our district. Thankful for our personnel department because they've been bringing candidates that are eager to come to Cajon Valley based on our reputation. I've interviewed several candidates specifically who have referenced our MVPs, and they want to be a part of our team. They want to be Cajon Valley. That's promise number one. So for that, in the interest of brevity, I just wanted to thank the board and cabinet for your continued support of the hard work that we're doing each and every day for all students in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Karen, I believe you're covering the PTA today.
Yeah, there's really nothing to report yet, but I know that we are excited. I did talk with Edith today, and I mentioned to Chrissy as well as several of our PTOs and PTAs of wanting to be getting out there to all the events and just excited to see what this new school year is going to involve. With the support of our parents, I know that we'd like to collaborate with both PTAs, PTOs, ELAC, and our FACE office and get the parent engagement. So it's really exciting year ahead.
Excellent. Next, we go to future agenda items, and as for one of the questions raised by Priscilla earlier, it's already been determined that the future agenda item for next agenda is going to have on it the WOW review. Do we have any other agenda items to discuss this evening?
I have one. And before I go there, I Googled what Priscilla had mentioned, that this board, Jim, when you were on district business, at the last board meeting voted unanimously to table the World Work Repayment Agreement. And I read that if a motion is not taken from table by the end of the next meeting, it is dead. So does that make our table of that motion from the last meeting die, and does that matter, I guess would be my question for the president as a parliamentary.
No, because we can always re-agendize it, which is what it's done. I of course wasn't here in June, so I don't know what we've done on a particular topic. So the short answer is, one, the procedure is correct, but the short answer to this, or the longer answer is that it can still be revived by placing it back onto the agenda separately, independently, which is what, as you know, when we did agenda, said that's my plan. So if we need to, if anybody feels the need to make the motion, I don't have an issue at this point in time making the motion. The downside is that's not agendized for this particular meeting, it is agendized as a future item.
Yeah, just to pick it up off the table to keep it alive, I guess. It seems like that might be.
But it will be on the next agenda whether we file, if you'd like to make the motion, I'll even make the second, but it's going to be on the next agenda.
Okay, motion to pick the item up off the table and agendize it for the next agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That way it just clarifies, it's not wrong.
Okay, very good. And
Any
then,
other agenda items?
can I monopolize the future agenda item real quick here?
Is there, yeah, another one? Go right ahead.
Yes, so on May 23rd, we voted a $550,000 sole source contract with Educators Cooperative. And the main goal of the agreement is to develop a personalized sexual health curriculum that aligns with CHIA. And to get to my point, Educators Cooperative said they will facilitate district-wide community engagement sessions and establish a dedicated committee focused on safety and health. I'd like to bring that back to discuss the deliverable of establishing a district-wide community engagement to establish a committee focused on safety and health. I heard after we left closed session on the way here that we had a huge amount of interest in parents who would like to be a part of that committee. I did attend, as Tracy mentioned prior, the focus groups, which
Anthony,
yes,
we're not pontificating. You want a future agenda item? It sounds to me like you want more of a staff direction to interview or to have a discussion with educators cooperatives to the deliverables. I don't think it's necessarily an agenda item itself. You just want to have a report of some sort. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, and how we're, we took an action to establish a health and safety committee, how that's going to be filled out, and whether it's going to be a separate health and safety committee or if it will be a health and safety committee as we took that action in the past. And my as you called it, my pontificating was just more to say my experience with, my firsthand experience with the deliverable over the summer. And we voted this late May, so I imagine getting people to show up to the focus group was a challenge, just to bring that back for discussion and make sure we are getting the engagement we desire from our community as we write those plans.
All right, so my suggestion is we'll evaluate that request as to whether or not it's proper for an agendized item versus proper to staff, direction to staff, and have a report back, and then we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
Yep.
Thank you. Absolutely. Because $500,000. A lot of it was torn up that as well. Any other future agenda items? Joe, Karen? No? Hearing none, we'll go into board reports. Joe, would you like to start?
Sure, I can go ahead and begin. I want to, first of all, talk about my opportunity to travel to Indianapolis in order to participate in Joy Jam. And first of all, I want to just congratulate David in having the opportunity to present on behalf of Cajon Valley at the event. In order for the event and the people that attended to actually see the work that we do here in Cajon Valley, it was very encouraging because it not only shows the innovation aspect of where we are in Cajon Valley, but it shows that Cajon Valley is on the map as far as who we are as a district in a lot of different ways. It's different from, let's say, Lakeside or La Mesa Spring Valley, not to disparage that, but the differences that Cajon Valley brings to public education, I believe, far exceeds other district entities in the country. So thank you, David, for doing that. Not only that, but we also had the opportunity for Jen Petraglia, who also presented on our TEDx program. So we have to go back to the foundation of TEDx in Cajon Valley, which was actually what I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the very first platform for children to take for presentation literacy. Is that correct? Yes. So we were able to spearhead and formulate the very first opportunity for children school-aged, I think as young as first grade, to stand up on not only a stage for its district, but a worldwide stage to help them articulate ideas. So I think we need to congratulate ourselves for these endeavors that we were able to present in Indianapolis, along with the other organizations that presented. It gave me a sense of pride that we are trying to be, we are innovative, not trying to be, but we are innovative in a sense where it gets the attention of the entire country as far as public education is concerned. So I wanted to talk first off about Joy Jam. Next, I also want to share with the community that I had the opportunity to participate in a UCSD extension program pretty much all summer long, which was very hard and very quite rigorous. And it was basically navigated through San Diego Taxpayers Association. Haney Hong, who really is sort of the oversight watchdog of different tax entities in San Diego County, gave us as board members the opportunity to press in to help us to understand or rekindle the understanding of bond oversight. So I took the summer to press into bond oversight, where we would stand, how bond oversight is critical when it comes to taxpayer money that's being spent, if at all, the downfalls and the pitfalls of what we've seen in other districts. Not only that, but we also had the opportunity to learn under, I think his name is Bob Siegel. He was actually a site superintendent for Grossmont Union at one point, and also Dale Scott, who's wrote a book on win-win oversight to bonds. So Dale Scott has been very integral in Cajon Valley when we've actually had certain bond measures added to a variety of ballots over the years. And Dale Scott also was a presenter and a teacher in this opportunity that I had. So I was able to rekindle some information about bond oversight, why it's important, and the fact that we had two bonds that fell off the docket, I guess you could say, of taxpayer, property taxpayer. So based on that, there would be an opportunity to hopefully talk about, open the discussion about safety bond measure that would be presented for the next ballot. Now, right now, currently we are in a safety oversight committee that helps us to understand where our pitfalls are as far as safety goes within Cajon Valley. Why do we have these pitfalls? What are these pitfalls? We are fortunate to have someone like Ryan Love to help organize and really be ahead of the game when it comes to safety in many different aspects. I mean, we're talking from pass cards on doors or openings on fences, looking at the safety on windows to active shooter. So we have so many, it's such a huge aspect of what safety can be considered, and as Chrissy might know, being on the oversight committee, it can be a vast topic as far as safety goes. So I'm happy to kind of move forward in that direction. Also, I had the opportunity to participate in interviews for principals and vice principals over the summer. I also participated in our video. So our video, as many of you know, is an opportunity for team building for our district, so that people from levels of board members to someone as you know, a kindergarten student can participate, and we can interact, build relationship, which is pretty formidable in this district. When we talk about that, we build relationship with one another, and I think that's what really helps us strengthen the bonds of who we are in Cajon Valley, not just within the district walls, but also outside in the community and beyond. And then let me think. So I talked about that. Also, I want to just recognize one of our teachers, Victoria Jones, who has been an educator for many, many years here in Cajon Valley, extremely dedicated in her work, really always moving forward with our initiatives, especially with World of Work, but always being a part of the team. And unfortunately, we're saying goodbye to Victoria at this juncture. It is, in my opinion, a great loss to the district, but I want to say that I do appreciate her and many of the teachers that have poured into our district and our students. I'm sure there's more, and I can't think of it, but I guess I'll get that next time. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Joe. Anthony.
All right. Start from today. I went to Cajon Valley Middle School, beautiful campus for the first time. I've only driven by it prior to that. I had a chance to see some of the professional development, more than I bargained for actually, because I was lost wandering the campus trying to find the one I signed up for. But that gave me the opportunity to see staff engaged and also music class going on for, I assume, some summer school kids. I thought summer school was over, but that was pretty neat. And let's see, I've attended a number of community events over the summer. I know some of us have run into each other at some of those events. Gathered a lot of useful feedback, runs the gamut, but if I had to say one thing that stood out to me at least, the main thing that I've seen is parental involvement and notification. I think that's what our community is concerned with, and communities up and down the state. So there's another CVUSD to the north of us, Chino Valley Unified School District. They were honored with the presence of our state superintendent, Tony Thurmond, at their meeting. And at that meeting, their board attorney gave an 8-minute presentation on their parental notification policy. One that we have the same policy, so as you guys know, a lot of our districts in the state adopt CSBA policies. So they basically redlined through their administrative regulation 5145.3, where it talks about if a student comes to a staff member with mental health concern, dysphoria concern, that in Chino Valley they changed it to where the parents will be notified, most central relationship in a student's life. Ours says this: when disclosure of a student's gender identity is made to a district employee by a student, the employee shall seek the student's permission to notify the compliance officer, which I believe in our case is the superintendent. That really ought to say parent. It really ought to say, and the argument Tony Thurmond made, I thought was great in favor of it, because he said, well, there's a concern with suicidality. That part is not great, but when a student presents to any of our staff members with that concern, the number one thing to do is notify the parent or guardian in the absence of that parent or guardian having been judged unfit in the court of law, of course. So he made the argument that improving the parental notification policy, quote unquote, outing kids to their parents, would increase the risk of suicidality, which again, it's a self-defeating argument. If a child has an issue like that, the parent should be the first to know, absent being judged unfit. I know we've talked about parents' rights, parental notifications, that sort of thing over these past few months. I think Chino Valley's given a pretty good example of what can be done within the laws of this state to basically address the concerns of our community as well. Parents want to know that they will be involved in the education, upbringing, and care of their child, and that they're not dropping them off at public school and having a concern that some staff member would be trained to do otherwise, which that brings me to the next point, which I know for months, since about January, we've been talking at this dais about a group called GLSEN, G-L-S-E-N. Our first experience with them was the issues at 6th grade camp. Then they showed up in this comprehensive sex ed curriculum we were going to approve with some bogus statistics saying that 8 in 10 students, LGBTQ students in schools, are harassed or threatened, and they have all of this, they're a advocacy group, radical group. Then around April, we start finding out there's all of these posters at my son's middle school, and most of the middle schools in the district. I was just sent one on Saturday from Hillsdale, which repeated those lines. 8 in 10 LGBTQ students experience harassment at school. All these statistics that reminded me of when I went to
CSBA conference and heard from the Deputy Superintendent of Student Support Services, Steve Zimmer, who Karen Mejia and Karen Minshew and I had a Zoom with. And one of the things they said there was, it's not the right messaging to say this group or that group is more likely to be suicidal. That's a bad message to send to kids, or that this group is more likely to be harassed or experience an unsafe environment at school. Obviously, our charge across the district is to make sure students are safe, but promoting that messaging in furtherance of activism, let's say, in our schools, to our students, facing our students, is inappropriate. It violates our advertising and promotional policies. And I was shocked after dealing with the GLSEN issues that happened with the YMCA policies, seeing them in our curriculum, and then finding that this propaganda is proliferated throughout the district. I learned that other districts were dealing with the same issues. In April, the Rancho Santa Fe School District found that these inappropriate posters linking kids to GLSEN websites where children are asked inappropriate questions. I know I've kind of shared with this board some of the questions they asked children, but Rancho Santa Fe School Board discovered it in April and removed it in April. What happened next was interesting. A fellow by the name of David Olson, who's a board member for GLSEN, it was written up in the newspaper, 10 News article, basically, in my view, threatening Rancho Santa Fe for having removed his group's propaganda. 3 days later, by complete serendipity, at one of these community events, I found out that this gentleman was hired to write some professional development training for our district that he delivered to 75 people in 2021 and an unknown amount in 2022. I'm still working with staff to get that to see the professional development as it was delivered to the teachers. So it's almost like you get some clues on how did this stuff just get so widely proliferated through the district so quickly. Now the training dealt with topics with laws. So then the question was, well, is this person who wrote the training an attorney? Are they qualified to write professional development curriculum at all?
Anthony,
yes.
I don't want to interrupt your board report, but I want to remind you that the board report's about what we have done within the district. And
yes.
This seems a little bit outside of that, but again, your discretion on that, please.
Yes, so I'm discussing a professional development that the district paid for and delivered. And then I believe there's some clues as to why this stuff proliferated through our district. And one of the things that was shared with me in the training, and I would like to share with this board, I've actually asked someone to help me, because the professional development training that was given on Zoom, I've been sent some screenshots, but there's a Zoom feature that I suppose if Coca-Cola is sharing their secret recipe, or a company sharing financial reports that they don't want to get out, you can click this Zoom feature that it's called the watermark feature, and so every viewer, if they take a screenshot, their email shows up as a watermark across the page. So these screenshots have that feature selected. Now I've attended some Zooms from this district, and I've attended a lot of Zooms over the years, I'm sure many people have, and I've just never experienced the watermark feature being turned on. Now in the case of professional development, not really necessary, because this training dealt with staff and student interactions, which would be discoverable, would need to be disclosed to parents if they ask, so I've made that request to see this. It was shared with me by staff members that this training referred them to GLSEN resources to share with their students. It referred them to the educator resource guide from GLSEN. They didn't tell me this, but I knew about it from looking into the YMCA issues we had at camp, that they shared resources that basically told the teachers, you can initiate these conversations with other people's children at school, and if they reveal to you that they're questioning, that you can then inform them that they have a right not to let their parents know. So introducing this concept of the separation between school and home, which goes back to that, you know, the feedback I got from this year, parental involvement and notification, and what Chino Valley Union School District did with their identical policy that we have. Our policy does have, you know, district employees shall seek the student's permission to notify, but it doesn't say parent. So I think we could look at that. I don't think that concern for parents is going to do anything but increase over time in our district, especially with what parents have seen in the elementary schools, the middle schools. Now the GLSEN posters, I'm hearing, will be coming down, replaced, hopefully. They are still up. As far as I know, they're still up on CajonValley.net on the virtual library out in Montgomery. I was sent one on Saturday from Hillsdale that I'm going to share with you, Jim, because I meant to share it today with the whole board, but now I can't, but I'll send that to you. Because it has those statistics that you rightly pointed out were an issue in our curriculum. And we're presenting these facts to students, which is concerning. If this training was the cause of this proliferation, I don't know how to rectify that, but you know, in many middle school classrooms, many administrators' doors, libraries, bulletin boards, posters throughout the district, students are being exposed to this propaganda that does violate our advertising and promotional material policies. So I look forward to a resolution to that, to seeing the staff training that was given by the district that I mentioned, and I'm told if I want an estimate of the cost to do the training and to pay the staff to attend the training, that I may need a second from a board member. So that's my other objective tonight, is to share that with you guys, that I may ask for a second to determine not just the cost, but what was the selection criteria? How do we choose someone based on their qualifications to write staff training that deals with important laws and compliance that I think it's very important that we train staff on SETS law, for example, SETH, I have a little bit of a lisp, sorry, SETS law, and these other laws, but who we hire to do that really matters, and I think a lot of what we've seen through the district is a testament to that. And with that, I will include my board report. Thank you.
Karen.
I also got to participate in a few of our interview panels, so thank you, Michelle, for including me. It is always eye-opening and encouraging to see the talent that is out there, the culture that is wanting to be created in our schools. I want to say thank you to CSEA, yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, CVAA and SEA, who is not here, but yeah, CVEA, who's not here. Sorry, but all the hard work of preparing the staff for the school to start next week, just really appreciate it. I know I saw the hard work going in at the end of June, still preparing for what is to come this summer, or this school year. And I'm looking forward to the PTA and PTOs and our face-off is in parent engagement. So that is really my commitment this year, is really focusing on that. And I know we are all being assigned new schools for this coming year, so please get out and participate, meet, and be a part of the schools that you're assigned to, connect with the principals and the teachers, and support them as they're really supporting our kids to do the good work. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. It's been a long meeting. In most situations like this, I would forego my board report in order to save a little bit of time. But I am going to do a little bit. I've been busy on everything is an understatement, but in particular on district matters. When you're vice president, I was vice president of this board for 3 years, I want to say maybe 4, you pinch hit for the president. And I did that every now and again. When you're president of the board, lucky me this year, you have no idea. You go from, because this board is very active, you go from being an active board member to president of the board, and you are on every phone call. Because I'm a lawyer, I'm involved with our legal directly all the time. Every contract, all the issues. So it's kind of impossible to say any particular thing, but I will say a few. One, very happy to have been engaged and had the opportunity to present to our Chaldean community in Metro San Diego, which is my district, my area. It's also where I grew up since I was 6 years old. Went to school with an awful lot of those people, good people out there. Very concerned about our sex ed curriculum, and a lot of rumors that have been getting out and festering on social media that we were able to squash. I was happy to do that. Moving forward from that, however, we've had comments here this evening, and during the comment session, we're not allowed to interact, other than if it's an agendized item. However, the board reports, I'm entitled to interact a little bit more. So I'm just going to make a couple of comments as we move through the folks that spoke to us this evening. One, Mr. Hall. So myself and Trustee Carnivale here, we're on the board for the East County Posse, it's a philanthropy group. We were the first ones to fund Boys and Men way back when. And when I was on the Marshall Falk Foundation, which I randomly commented upon here this evening, we also funded Boys to Men. So your interaction with that organization, I'm sure, sprung into the new one, and cannot help or cannot wait to have further conversations with you. Your organization, Boys and Men organization, absolutely vital and crucial, in particular in this time period.
Thank you.
Right? In particular in this time period. As a lawyer, I have interacted with everybody from octogenarians to teenagers who are going through very difficult parts of their life, primarily my actions in family law, how that affects the family, how that affects the kids I see. Your organizations are very important. Chrissy, focusing on safety groups, we will try to get you more streamlined information. That's obviously very important. I've lectured on our safety and security protocols that we put in place at an extensive procedure subsequent to the Parkland shooting. In particular, my own background in the Second Amendment world, bringing in the experts that we did bring in 4 years ago to put those in place. And while there's always room for improvement about safety, we have 2 obligations. I've said this before. We have an obligation to educate your kids, obligation to keep your kids safe. If we do those 2 things, we've checked the boxes that are important as a school board and the school district. Coming over, Tom, very much appreciate your comments about money being spent from the public sector. Me living my entire life in the private sector, running a private law firm, a private professional sports agency, my eyes were very much opened on how we are limited in how we budget things in this state for schools, and how we are top-down dictated to, despite the concept of LCAP being local control. It can be, but it can also be a illusion when the state says, oh, and by the way, this bucket of money has this string attached, this bucket of money has this string attached, this bucket of money has this string attached. Oh, you need a new building? That's awesome. You have money in a bucket you're not using? Oh, but you can't use that bucket to fix your building. Maddening from a private perspective coming into the academic world. Maddening. So I appreciate your comments on this evening. Priscilla, who has left, I've known Priscilla for a very long period of time. I like Priscilla, but I think her comments that when she starts off disparaging an accomplished member in good standing in the state bars, it lessens her next few comments. I would hope that she doesn't do that in the future. Don't insult somebody and then believe that your comments after that are going to be worthwhile or well taken. But she's a better person than that. Knowing her as I know her. Lee, we have not met before. This is the first time I've heard you speak. You spoke at the last meeting. Again, I was absent. You made the comment that teachers don't want to be entertained. I think everybody wants to be entertained to some extent. However, your comments are well taken, and at the same point in time, Cajon Valley does different things. Right? I have never seen, and I have interacted now with boards from across the state, exceptionally close in a lot of aspects, and then probably hundreds of boards in some sort of tacit situation. Cajon Valley, think about how we're spelled. If you don't speak Spanish, how would you enunciate our name? Cajon, right? So, when we walk into a nationwide conference or a statewide conference, there was a time when people said Cajon Valley. They don't say Cajon Valley anymore because of how this district is run. They know our name, they know how to say our name. The national recognition that this board, the previous board, and this cabinet brought to this particular section of California is beyond reproach. David Marashiro and his actions of leading the district before I got here and since through COVID. I hope you're aware that we're the largest public school district in the state to stay open during COVID. Stay open, right? When everybody else, Chrissy, you know it's not a public participation aspect right now. When the state shut everybody down, 4 of the 5 board members that were on the dais at that point in time fought to keep us open. David was a visionary on that. We collaborated with our staff and our union contacts, and we sat down at the Coronado Marriott, over 200 of us, and we ballparked on how to open. Within a few weeks, we were open. We had summer. Remember when they said you couldn't have summer school, but you could go to camp? Where do you think Camp Cajon was brought from? It was a workaround because we were collaborative and we worked on that. We had over 6,000 kids in our summer program with exactly 1 transmission of COVID between a student and a SICA at that point in time, special ed situation. We then teamed up with CVUSD and brought in their studies on how to do fecal studies into our waste management, into our wastewater so we could test viral load. We worked with the local biotech so kids didn't have to get their nose scraped. We could actually spit and then test for COVID. What kid doesn't like to spit when you're 3 years old? And that all goes back to the idea of one-to-one technology where kids can take their Chromebooks home. Lots of schools have computers, lots of schools have iPads and other technology, but they don't go home. We've had kids going home and learning to work on a computer since 3rd grade for at least 4 years before I joined the board, I want to say, with David, because he thought about that and then we decreased that. So when COVID did hit and we did have to go to extended learning for that brief period of time for everybody, our kids were used to working on the Chromebooks. They were used to having it at home. You look at what happened with San Diego Unified as an example. It had 50,000 kids didn't even have technology or access to Wi-Fi. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But this district was ahead of that because of that, people know how to say Cajon, right? So, is the district perfect? Nobody's perfect. Is the strive to get there ingrained in the staff from every single person? I truly believe that it is, and I've learned that by sitting on this board, and I'm very proud to sit on this board. People will have a discussion about giving me sand contracts late, but we will have that discussion, I promise you, Mary. No, I just want you to be aware there's a lot of good. We talk about the world of work. It is, and I was part of how we put that together. I worked with our attorneys to be able to get the intellectual property attached to that. We are the only public school district in the nation that has a curriculum that sells that can bring money into the general fund. Now, has that been millions and millions of dollars? It depends on how you look at it. We've received grants worth millions and millions of dollars that have helped us in the program. So, we do a lot of things that others don't. And we are recognized for it certainly on the academic levels and certain other think tanks. And I recognize that that does not always filter out to the public. I completely understand that, so it's important to have those conversations with us. Let's see here. Mr. Georges, Trustee Carnevale commented about the advertising going on into our schools. He and I have been working on that particular topic. I have have worked with collaboratively an opportunity I think that's going to be very engaging, and I think it's going to be very welcomed by the community. However, I do use president's privilege. I intend to announce that to our staff first come Thursday. So, sit tight. With that said, Mark, I have to read my training videos. I just got that email. And in moving forward, I think it's very important for us as a district to keep in mind that we represent a vast, vast group of people, right? Demographically different, socioeconomically different, from Title I to wealthier schools. And we have an obligation to represent, when we're on this dais, everybody. Not just our area, not just those people we talk to on a regular basis, not just those people that agree with us. Right? Talk to everybody. It's important to have the discussion. And I'm very proud of this board this evening for having those discussions. Very collaborative tonight. We don't have to agree, but we should be agreeable when we disagree. So no, great job on that tonight, everybody, from my perspective. My kudos. With that said, I'm going to end my board report. Again, I didn't want to go, but I'm definitely not getting different tonight. David, superintendent's report, because we do have to still go back to closed session.
Thank you. And I will do a short report with some of the same themes that you touched on. Thank you, Mr. President. Before I do that, I want to do two things. Michelle, would you mind giving a 30-second commercial to the army of new talent we welcomed this morning and how your team did it?
Oh, I'd be happy to. So each year at the beginning of the year, we have a new employee welcome. It used to be the very mundane, boring, laborious orientation, and we scratched that. It really is now a welcome to the district. We had a variety of representatives from each one of our departments come in and talk really with the main purpose of helping them understand our mission and our vision, who we are, helping them be Cajon. They were a fabulous group. They also were able to engage in a district-wide field trip and go visit payroll, which is always a close to the heart department. They visited payroll, print shop, where they were awarded a certificate for their very first Cajon Valley shirts. We went and saw Child Nutrition, which I encourage you, if you've never seen that building over there, it's amazing. And we're able to engage in one of their amazing cinnamon rolls and meet our new director. Transportation, and then visit upstairs in services to see the work and hear from our FACE department and the work that they're doing there. It was just overall just intended to be welcoming to the family event for those folks, and then we're going to see them back again for a little bit more work on our mission and our vision on Thursday morning. It was great, and I really had to hand it off to the lead staff on that project was Jen Petraglia, Mike Kufal, and Amanda Silva, and they just knocked it out of the park.
Thank you, Michelle. Second, again, please accept my apology for putting us in this position with the votes today. Just in reflection, even though it was last minute, there are things I could have done communication-wise that could have avoided this, and I'm sorry. I'll do better. Scott, I apologize to your team and Cajon too, because when the superintendent is making last-minute decisions, it impacts staff too, and they do things that we're not prepared to do at a moment's notice, and so a lot of people made all these things happen with a lot of collaboration, and I apologize for putting us behind that on that. So with my report, and what Jim alluded to, we've done some incredible things here, but some hard things, and I was thinking about this one, when people ask how, but just a reminder.
They're our students, and it's our community, and we're worried about them, and so we want them home.
Almost 24 Cajon Valley students are stranded in Afghanistan, currently unable to make it back home. According to district officials, the families traveled to visit an extended family for summer break when the Taliban took over. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo was at the district where where it's anxiously awaiting their safe return.
The district says the latest information they have on their students and their family is that they are safe. They are trying to come home, but so far there is no word on if or when that might happen.
So with the support of the board, our staff relentlessly went to the media, banged on every news channel and politician, and staff came to operate a 3-month-long operations center upstairs 24/7 to bring all 23 families home. And it was not staff feeling obligated or stretched. They wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else in the world at that time but saving our families. And you alluded to, this is April 2020. We're in the Coronado Marriott Hotel. There was no question that when the board asked Mark and at the time Chris Prokop, our union presidents, to convene our teams to talk about opening schools, that they would show up. But our entire management team, our labor union, what happened there? Our entire management team came together.
That's God's work.
As soon as school shut down, we knew that we wanted to keep serving our students and our community, and we also knew that was going to take a huge team effort. Everyone from child nutrition to IT department, teachers, principals, custodians, everyone was ready and willing to show up for our students.
I did weigh, my health concerns. When I weighed that decision, it was just overwhelming that I felt like I needed to be there for the children. Looking at their faces and their smiles as they come and they say thank you, that experience right there, there's no words for it.
Since 2014, we've been working on a blended learning model where we're working with the students in person with their learning, but we're also working with them on their computers. And that transitions right now beautifully towards distance learning. It's allowing us to keep those personal connections and allowing us to work with the students through their computers to continue the success that we've had with their education.
So I'm in law enforcement, my wife is a nurse. It's been a little stressful for us not knowing exactly what we're going to do. Since we both work, this program, it's been a blessing for us.
This is a great way to share our ideas with each other and make our world a better place.
Having the opportunity where we can send our children back to an environment that they're familiar with but haven't seen and we're missing so much was really helpful.
Our schools are a place where students go for safety, for food, and that security and that routine. And in a time of turmoil in our lives with COVID, schools have just really become a safe place for students.
Some Cajon Valley Union School District students return to class today.
When I learn at school, it makes me feel like I can do more with my friends around me because they believe in me.
Every single day, my students say it was the best day ever. They are so excited to be here. I can tell they're smiling underneath their masks. So it's just been nice to be able to be back doing what we love in this new adaptive way.
Cajon Valley School District is the largest in the state to open for in-person learning, thanks to one of the few waivers that was granted.
Really seeing the students connect with careers that they've never heard of before and now align with and can aspire to is really exciting. It really shows that we're on the right path and that this can be really impactful in their future.
There are families all over the country dealing with this when it comes to kids in COVID and getting them back into the classroom.
Today was the very first in-person field trip from a K-12 school since the start of COVID-19 to a California.
It's wonderful to see that we are able to do this safely together and learn in a way that supports our community and supports the health of all our students and staff.
Thank you, Cajon Valley, for everything you've done. Keep rocking.
When people ask, how did you open when there was no plans from anybody? When the governor said you can't do it? When there were no safety measures in place, we had to create them. When people ask, how did you rescue 23 families from Afghanistan after the United States pulled out? It's this. It's employee engagement and culture. And the questions down the middle on the Gallup Q12 that we ask, do our supervisors care about our people? Do the supervisors encourage employee development? Do we allow employee opinions to matter and count? And does the mission and purpose of our company, our business, our school district make me feel important? They're connected to it. This is how we achieved incredible things, both academically, in modern curriculum, but also in rescuing our kids and staying open, like Jim alluded to. And we set this high bar several years ago when we merged professional learning between our classified and our certificated staff, which used to be separate.
CV Conference is multiple days of professional learning for classified and certificated staff in Cajon Valley. We like to end our conference with something fun and light and motivating.
They gotta do that to you.
This year, our theme is the AIDS.
It's just a great time to build those relationships with your staff, with your coworkers before the year starts.
We're more than a number.
It ain't right.
We're actually a family.
They show it
I
every
feel we
meeting
have
too.
the opportunity
Every meeting they
to
get
have so
you.
much input in moving forward in everything this district is doing to meet the needs of all of our students.
CV Conference is great because you get a chance to learn new things and connect with people and have a positive start to the school year. There's a lot of things I've done in my 31 years that I think can help, but then there's teachers that have been here 1 year and can teach me new things.
This was a great opportunity for me to see what is going on in the schools, the impact the programs that we implemented have on these students.
What's nice about this experience is it's not just a bunch of people shuffling from class to class. There's a theme, you know, you get a chance to show your creativity. It makes it more fun, it makes it more lively, it's entertaining. It's not just this thing that you have to do, but it's the thing that you want to go to.
We have over 100 sessions being offered. We have sessions for everybody. We want to make sure everyone feels included and have a place where they can go learn specifically for their content.
Those conferences did help me a lot doing my job in a more professional way. Being part of Cajon Valley community, it was really a great experience.
When you're part of the Cajon Valley team, you are part of something bigger that no one else is doing. And I think the big picture is hearing the message, what are we all trying to achieve? And it is the vision, it is our mission. It is about happy kids and healthy relationships on a path to meaningful employment.
We're grateful for Shadow Mountain for that opportunity. For several years, it's no longer available to us. We're gonna have to figure that out. But Thursday is our employees' first day of work, and thank you for allowing us to make it special, and look forward to seeing you on Thursday morning.
With that, we adjourn to closed session.
So do you come back after closed session?
Yes, we do a report out.
Are we doing that this week?